You know, the way we talked about it in the Raptors and Cavaliers playoff preview was that the Raptors needed to find a way to contain their offense a little bit with our fairly decent defense, and needed to make their shots in order to beat the Cavaliers. Yeah, neither really happened tonight as the Raptors lose. Well, the game isn't 100% over yet, but at the moment it's 116-103. And the Cavaliers just ripped apart the Raptors' defense tonight. There were times where the Raptors collapsed defensively, and I mean, when you give the Cavaliers even a sliver of open looks, it's game over at that point. They shot 41% from three. They made 14 threes. That's crazy, and I mean that's the reason you lose. You know, is that, and the Raptors' offense again. Yes, they got 103 points, and that's what you're going to be able to do against Cleveland, but you have to be able to take it to that next level. You have to be knocking down your open shots. Now, you're not going to see a game in this series that you win 90-86 or something like that. That's not going to happen. But what you need to be able to do is get really efficient offense. Okay, so the final is 116-105. But it's a really, really tough loss for the Raptors. I mean, you look at some of the shooters, right? And we said in the preview that Carroll and people like Patrick Patterson had to be big. They had to knock down their threes. They had to do their thing. Well, Carroll was 1 for 1 from 3, which is great. But Patterson was 1 of 5, and I think it was 0 of 4 for the, well, until he made that 1 3. He was 0 of 4. He only ended up with 5 points. Carroll only had the 1 3. You know, and that's tough, right? When you have Cleveland having all their big players, right? When you have Love knocking down 18, LeBron being ridiculous as he is, 35, you know, Kyrie with 24, you know, I mean, you need the other guys on your team to step up. And we saw DeMar with only 19 points, Kyle with 20, but he had 11 assists to go along with that. Kyle did shoot 7 of 13 for 53%, which is all right, but you need the supporting cast. Like I said, they had a really rough start to the game. They were able to claw back partway through that second quarter and cut it to 2, I think 2 different times. But then, it's what Cleveland does. You get close to 2, and then they get a couple quick threes, and immediately it's 8, right? And then it's a bigger deficit, and it's harder to come back. You know, and it didn't help that the Raptors, you know, had 12 turnovers and committed 22 fouls. They didn't get to the free throw line much at all. You know, well, they did get 20 times to the line, but a lot of that was late. At one point, it was 21 free throw attempts for the Cavaliers and 8 for the Raptors. So that's a tough thing, but I'm not going to say, oh, referees were bad. There were calls that should have been called, yes. But in hindsight, the Raptors did not make their open shots, which they need to do. And again, I think it was crazy. You know, I look at, well, we talked about it in the preview, and I asked you guys about what your starting lineup would be. Almost everybody put Norman Powell in there. Norman Powell. Now, don't look at 20 minutes. Do not look at that and say, well, he did play a decent amount. No. Most of that was in the fourth quarter when the game was lost. The guy didn't start. I think it was in the third quarter. He had a total of 9 minutes played. This guy was the difference maker in Game 5 and 6 against Milwaukee. And you put him on the bench and play him 9 minutes until the game is pretty much meaningless? And then JV, I mean, he plays 21 minutes, 6 points, 6 boards. Again, not that great. He was 3 of 7 shooting. I mean, I love JV. But what was working before? You had Norman Powell start, and you had JV come off the bench, and he was solid. Now, I don't know if Dwayne Casey just wanted to go with the lineup that you went into the playoffs with and see how it did. But man, Norman Powell, in 20 minutes, he had 11 points. He was 3 of 11 shooting, not too great, but he knocked down a couple threes, right? And Norman Powell's defense is big. You know, I mean, it's just I'm not going to question it 100%. Raptors in Game 1s, as we all know, it's never a good thing for the Raptors in Game 1. Now, we look forward to Game 2. All right, this is where we got to look at things and say, okay, we've played game 1. What did we like? What did we not like? Right? What do we need to see in game 2 to turn this around? What we do need to see is find a way to flip and contain LeBron. But that's much easier said than done. The guy is a legend. I mean, obviously a Hall of Famer, you know, an MVP candidate pretty much every season. It's not going to be easy, but what you got to try and do is contain the other guys. And the Raptors did an all right job of that today. But the Raptors shooting wasn't really on par to what we hoped to see. They shot 44% from the field, which against Cleveland, it's okay, but it's not great, and it's going to be a tough time winning. I mean, they only shot 46%, but again, they knocked down 4 more threes than you. They had, what was that, 7 more free throws and 9 more attempts, right? It's just, you know, the shooting was not right for the Raptors. More or less in that first half, they weren't really, well, first quarter really. They were stuck 12 after the first quarter, and that's the big hole they put themselves in. And it was just against a team like Cleveland, it's tough to crawl out of. They had attempts to, but they just couldn't do it. And we saw spurts of great stuff. But we also saw spurts of, and it was also some careless passes, you know, DeMar and Lowry just passing it down low to JV when there's 2 guys on him, turnover, right? It was just careless passes. I mean, it's a tough game to gauge. You look at this game and you say, oh, they lost by 11. Well, I mean, they really lost by about 18, 16. That's when really things started to, you know, people put in their benches, and that's when we started coming back a little bit because our D-League won the championship. But if we're looking at this game, we say, okay, you didn't contain LeBron. It's not easy. Like I said, it's much easier said than done. Your supporting cast wasn't really there. You look at the bench points, again, they didn't do a whole lot. You know, Ibaka had 15, Lowry had 20, and DeRozan had 19. That's great. Also, I was very impressed with PJ Tucker in this one. 13 points, 11 boards in 26 minutes. He was a beast on the glass. I was really happy with him. But again, like we said, Carroll, only 3 points. He had 4 rebounds, but only the 3 points. And, you know, but he did only take the 1 shot. So that's another thing we got to look at. If he takes more shots in that game, what would it look like? JV only had the 6 points. Patterson, like we said, only had 5. Powell, let's not get into that. He actually ended up with 12. Corey Joseph had 2. You know, he didn't play much. And it was just not really, you know, you didn't have that one guy that stood out. They had LeBron and Kyrie both in 20+. You know, like I said, LeBron had a double-double, 35 and 10, and Irving had a double-double, 24 and 10 with assists. So it's a game you got to say, okay, we didn't play our greatest. We weren't knocking down our shots. Now you move into game 2. Look, going into the series, we wanted a split to start this, correct? I agree. You still have to do. You still have the opportunity for that to happen. But you got to win the next one for that to happen. You don't want to come back home down 0-2. Now, you did last year, but you lost in 6. And we don't want to do that this year. We want to go even farther this year. We want to beat these guys. It's not going to be easy, but we want to. All right, so game 2 goes Wednesday night, 7 o'clock tip-off. Same time as today's game. Again, what we need to see is Carroll, Patterson, you know, Joseph, a guy the bench. We need to see the bench scoring be huge. We need one guy to step it up. If Patterson can knock down 12 points and Carroll can knock down 8 himself, that's okay. You know, they're chipping in themselves and knocking down a couple threes here and there, right? That's what this team needs. They need Lowry and DeRozan to put up, you know, obviously 20, 25 plus. And you need the supporting cast to do their thing. Ibaka needs to do what he did tonight. Tucker, if we can get what we got from Tucker tonight, hey, that's huge. But we got to wait and see, and, you know, hopefully we can get a split, all right? So you know what, guys? That is going to do it for this one. If you guys enjoyed this video, and, I mean, you're bummed about this loss just like I am, hit that like button. I do appreciate that. Hit the subscribe button if you guys have not already. Comment down below. What are your guys' thoughts on this game? Give me all your details about it. Let me know. And we'll talk to you guys shortly. Jays Editioners, they are beating up on the Yankees. That's very interesting. I'm loving it. Jays looking to win 3 straight games. It's not over yet, so that's why I'm saying they're looking for it. And also, like we've been saying, Raptors Edition, Wednesday night, 7 o'clock tip-off. Raps, Cavaliers, Game 2. still in Cleveland. We're looking to get a split coming back home. That would be gorgeous. We'll talk to you guys then.